Welcome everyone to the public forum for the 9th of June 2022. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I would respectfully like to acknowledge the land on which we meet, that of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to extend this respect to any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today. And I'd obviously like to extend a warm welcome to members of the public gallery who have joined us tonight, as well as those who are at home watching on the internet. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that their presence may be recorded. If you don't wish for it to be recorded, please make yourself known to one of the staff members. We'll also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent mode during this meeting. So the public forum is held monthly and provides residents with an opportunity to present to council topics of interest and allows for further discussion, which is not possible at a formal council meeting. And tonight we are very lucky as we have 4 items from members of the public to present. We also have a meeting scheduled after this one tonight, so we do have to keep some time limits, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak to each of their items, and afterwards councillors can respond and or take questions on notice. So, and I will just note, we've got a full house tonight. We've got 8 in the chamber, and we also have Councillor Isa over on the screen. Councillor Isa, just doing a sound check. You can hear us, you can see us.
All good, thank you, Mayor. I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me too. My apologies. I didn't want to bring flu germs into the chamber.
No, please don't. Thank you, Councillor Isa, and great that you can join us. So the first presentation tonight, I would like to invite Lauren and Tim from the Maribyrnong and Moonee Valley Local Learning and Employment Network up to the speaker.
Good evening, everybody. So we'd like to acknowledge the support of Moonee Valley City Council since the beginning of Maribyrnong and Moonee Valley Local Learning and Employment Network, or MMVLEN for short, 21 years ago, back in 2001. MMVLEN is an independent community organisation that was formed by the Victorian Government to facilitate a network of partners in the local area to support the education, training and employment outcomes for local people. Council have been a critical partner since the inception of MMVLEN, providing guidance in board director and chair roles, partnerships and alliances in developing initiatives, internships and pilot mentoring programs, providing work placement opportunities, and generally contributing to the education, training and employment opportunities of the local people. So we'd like to thank you for your support in the past, your support now and into the future. It is greatly appreciated. So we brought along a certificate of appreciation. If we can steal you, Mayor, for a quick photo opportunity.
Thank you, Lauren. This is a great certificate. I think this can stay here for now. We obviously love the partnership that we have as well, and thank you for that wonderful partnership that we have, and hopefully it continues into the future and we can keep working together to provide great employment opportunities for our youth. Thank you for coming along tonight. Okay, now our next presentation, presentation 2 and presentation 3, is for the land opposite 63 Hampton Road, Essendon West. And I'd like to invite Andrew Gunter, who has submitted 2 items on behalf of the owners of 63 Hampton Road and the land opposite 63 Hampton Road, Essendon West. Andrew, thanks you.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. We have, as the 5 owners in the complex at 63 Hampton Road had a couple of ongoing problems that have been a little bit difficult to resolve. The first one I wanted to speak about was a triangle of land that was shown on the plan that was attached to my email yesterday, which shows a shaded area of land that's between Hampton Road and St Bernard's Murphy Oval, which is the oval at St Bernard's closest to Buckley Street. And this section of land which on the plans that you can get from Department of Planning and other state government agencies shows that it's still part of roadway. I'm not sure if all of it is municipal road or whether some of it is Vic Roads DOT road, I think, possibly. But it's been fenced in with St Bernard's land and they've done some landscaping on it, but it's possibly not their responsibility. So when we get into late summer, late spring, early summer, we start getting a problem with snakes coming up from the creek. And on occasions, on the warm days in as early as late spring, we've had eastern brown snakes curled up on the footpath opposite our driveway, with and it's a very popular cycling, dog walking and other pedestrian path. It's used a lot by the St Bernard students going to and from the bus. So the question about the maintenance of that triangle of land and who's responsible for it is really something we'd like sorted out, if possible, before the summer. It's been raised with council over the years. In fact, I think it was first raised when Brian Lancaster was Director of Infrastructure and Neville Smith was CEO, so it has a long history. And I think because there are so many different parties involved, including state government, I think it might have fallen off the list, possibly. So that's something we'd be very keen to see if we can see.
I think that's something that we can get to the bottom of, who I'm getting a very strong nod from the director, so that's noted, and
all right,
we'll get to the bottom of it and we'll get back to you.
That'd be wonderful. And if any of the officers want copies of the earlier correspondence as to where it got up to, then I'm happy to provide that as well.
Thank you. Perhaps we can make sure the details are exchanged.
Terrific. Thank you.
Did you have another presentation as well?
Well, I don't know if mine's next or if somebody else is next.
No, you're next. Yep.
The second issue was about the land it's the south side of 63 Hampton Road, where the last dwellings in the street. Next to us is an embankment that leads up to the footpath and cycle path just next to Buckley Street, and it's a compacted embankment that was built, or that was put in place when Buckley Street, West Essendon and East Keilor were connected, because up until I think the 70s or so there was no connection between the two. So this is a whole lot of compacted land with a graded embankment that comes down to our side fences at 63 Hampton Road. And we've had some issues with the fences, our fences that three of our townhouses back onto this council-maintained embankment have had issues with the retaining walls moving and the timber barge boards rotting. So I was concerned when the new townhouses in Buckley Street, the last group of townhouses in Buckley Street, got their driveway crossover done in sometime last year. I'd have to check exactly when it was. That the crossover was installed in such a defective way that the water collected on the Buckley Street carriageway flows along the gutter, comes to the crossover for 446 Buckley, flows onto the footpath. Some of it goes into 446 Buckley's internal drains, but quite a lot of it goes onto council's embankment. as a new directed flow of water onto the embankment above our side fences. And there's been some issues about the stability of that embankment, and so this water is making the situation worse. At some point, maybe because of COVID, the construction of the vehicle crossover might not have been inspected in person, but might have been done by camera because of lockdown. I'm not sure how this might have arisen, but compared with the crossover just one group of townhouses further away, 444 Buckley, which is fine, proper design, complies with council standards, and it works. The one at 446 doesn't, and it's causing a water problem on the embankment above our side fences, and the sooner it's looked at, the better, so that we can work out if anything can be done about it.
Thank you, Andrew. Ben, are you happy to follow up on this one, or do you have comment to make at this point in time? You're happy to follow up? Great. So for those who are watching at home and for you, Andrew, we've got word from our director who will follow up.
Great. Thank you. That'd be really helpful.
Thank you for making us aware of those two issues, Andrew. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for this is, I think, the first public forum that's been reopened to the gallery since whenever?
Yeah, probably early 2020. So definitely the first time for a lot of councillors tonight. So thank you very much for coming along. Sorry, I should have asked councillors if anyone had any questions for either of Andrew's items. No? Beautiful. Okay. Now, our next presentation number 4, is privacy and trespassing, and I'd like to invite Apollo Yanni, who would like to present. Thank you, Apollo.
Thank you for letting me have my say. My neighbour complains about my property at every opportunity and rings the council to complaint. A complaint to council about my unsightly property was taken to court and fined $2,500. I did community work and told everybody what the council did to me. Case number 1239364, August 2015. I had a sign in this chamber that said, "The Moonee City Council are thieves," in my opinion. I was given a notice of declaration of prohibited person signed by Anthony Smith, acting CEO, dated 20th July 2016. I took this to VCAT of human rights violations, case number H1052017. There was a conference at VCAT, a settlement $2,000 towards me. The council withdrew after 2 days. Suspect that was likely on the orders of Brian Lancaster. I was then took this to VCAT under human rights. The council hired lawyers. The job of lawyers is not to win cases.
Sorry, it looks like our link has just dropped. If you just can hold, I don't want other people live streaming to miss your speech. I just need to make sure that are we still live?
Still live on our YouTube, but Councillor Isaac unfortunately has dropped out just momentarily.
Okay. So Apollo, it's up to you. We've just lost one councillor who was tuning in. If you wanted to wait 1 minute whilst they rejoin, or you can continue. It is up to you.
I'll continue.
You'll continue? Okay.
The job of lawyers is to make money, not to win cases. The lawyers did everything they can to stop me from going to VCAT. What should have taken 1 month took 18 months. The longer it took, the more money the lawyers made. The lawyers stated after 4 months the legal bill was $40,000. Estimated cost for 18 months is $250,000. The persons I summoned, councillors, all lied or did not recall. Have a copy of the witness statements. The council lost. I was awarded $2,500. Brian Lancaster is no longer here, and he is proud for his good work. On a salary of $450,000, he has less so when this gets out how to explain himself. My neighbour looked over my fence and did not like what he's seen. None of his business. none of anybody's business what I have in my front yard or any other or anything else on my property. Private space, nothing dangerous. 2 council persons came and took photos of my front yard looking over my fence. Was given notice to clean up my front yard, saying it was unsightly. How can something be unsightly if it's not seen from public space? I also have trespass signs on my property. May I suggest you read Dillon versus Blenty High Court case on trespass. Basically, 2 persons entered a person's property who beat them up, took to the High Court of Australia and was awarded about $400,000. There are 20 houses in my area within walking distance who have high fences. Did the council take photos of those? And then the council of those houses? Discrimination, bullying, harassment, spying. I have other evidence of spying on me. This will only be revealed in court. I will work out with some of my lawyer friends how much it will cost in legal fees if this goes to court. I expect this amount to be my compensation. I'm a pensioner. I can waive all fees, all court fees. The political cost and bad reputation you will experience, may I suggest give it serious consideration. Just something else you should know. Please remember Crimes Act, Commonwealth 1914, Part 2, Section 28, interference with political liberty. Any person who by violence or by threats or imitation of any kind hinders the interference with the free expression of performance of any other person in any political right or duty shall be guilty of a crime, to be guilty of an offence. Penalty, 3 years imprisonment. Anthony Smith, Brian Lancaster and possibly all councillors at that time. There is no time limit on criminal offences. I'm giving that serious consideration. Thank you for listening to me. I'd also like to give you a photo of council personnel taking photos over my fence. I have a 5-minute video of this which can be made available to the public or to the councillors if you like. You cannot see anything in my front property from public space. That's walking on a footpath or across the street, unless you have a camera and do that.
Thank you, Paulo. Is that a copy for us? I think I'm happy to note and receive that. If you wanted to pass it to Nicole.
Thank you.
Or not? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Apollo. Councillors, were there any questions? No? Now, thank you everyone for attending our public forum tonight, and thank you for all of those who are watching online. We'll now be closing the public forum, but don't go too far away because we'll be opening our budget submission meeting shortly in about 7 minutes. So thank you very much everyone, and we'll see you soon. Welcome everyone to tonight's informal meeting to hear submissions on the draft budget for 2022-2023 and draft asset plan. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the land on which we're meeting, that of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here tonight. Now, we do have a full house of councillors tonight. We have 8 in the chamber, and for those who can't see, we've got Councillor Isa on the screen with us tonight as well. Councillor Isa can hear us and can also speak to us. If that's not the case, we will pause the meeting and make sure that our IT is working well. So the purpose of tonight's hearing is for councillors to hear the community feedback on the draft 2022/23 budget and the draft asset plan. It should be noted that council is not making any decisions on the budget tonight. The 2022/23 budget and asset plan will be endorsed at the council meeting, or potentially endorsed at the council meeting on the 28th of June. A total of 56 submissions were received on the draft budget and 4 submissions on the draft asset plan. And I wish to remind everyone in the gallery that tonight's informal meeting is being live streamed via Council's website. And I obviously extend a hello to everyone, a warm welcome to everyone watching on at home. If there is anyone on the gallery who doesn't want to be filmed, please make sure you make yourself known to one of the staff members. As I mentioned before, we don't have any apologies tonight. Councillors, do we have anyone who wishes to declare a conflict of interest on anything this evening? Councillor Sharp?
Budget submissions?
Yeah.
I have a conflict due to family relationships, is that the word? Family relationships for the Doodagalla Tennis Club budget submission.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Nation?
Look, I'll just provisionally declare a conflict of interest, a general conflict, should the presenter who submitted about the Ascot Vale Leisure Centre be present. I've got an existing conflict of interest for reasons previously disclosed to the CEO.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, we are obviously, as I said, not making any decisions tonight, just hearing. So we'll now move to the part of the meeting where we will actually be hearing from the submitters, and we believe we'll have about 16 community members who have registered to speak this evening in relation to the budget. And as mentioned before, we do have a time limit as we have so many people to get through, so each speaker will have 3 minutes to make your presentation, and there may or may not be questions afterwards. So we'd like to start with the first speaker tonight, which is Tim Goldby from the Moonee Valley Bicycle User Group. Tim, if you can come up to the stand.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you for inviting me to make a budget submission on behalf of Moonee Valley Bicycle Users Group and all current and prospective bicycle riders throughout Moonee Valley. During COVID lockdown, there were few cars on the streets, and I noticed a few things that were rare. Families riding bikes together, groups of young boys riding together, which I still see occasionally. But what struck me most was groups of teenage girls, something I'd never seen living for 25 years in Moonee Valley. This demonstrates that if people feel safe, they will ride bikes. So my question is, with all the known benefits of cycling, why does this council continue to neglect the safety of bicycles and fail to encourage cycling with little funding or development of cycling infrastructure? In 2012, the council published a 10-year cycling strategy, and then the strategy was buried. You guys made a nice detailed brochure and you have nothing to show for it. That in itself was an appalling waste of ratepayers' money. Since then, along with the inaction, open dialogue with Moonee Bug has all but ceased. A number of bicycle shops have closed due to lack of demand, and cycling numbers have stagnated when compared to neighbouring LGAs. The Moonee Bug wants to see constant annual funding for bicycle infrastructure. We want to see a direction, a plan, and a regular annual budget so that cyclists, as well as prospective cyclists, can feel safe and choose to ride instead of drive more often. And we all know less cars and more bikes means less wear and tear on our streets, reducing the council's road and maintenance expenditure. In addition, I'm asking you to reopen dialogue with Moonee Bug. It's frustrating when good money is spent badly, and there's a lot of that happening in Moonee Valley because you don't consult those who know the streets better than you do. In the latest edition of Valley View, Mayor Councillor Byrne said, "We want a healthy Moonee Valley, and encouraging people to be active is one of the ways we are helping to achieve this. By following Moonee Bug's submission, not only would you be making Moonee Valley residents healthier, you would be creating a legacy of safe, rideable streets that would benefit generations well into the future." Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim, for that presentation. Councillors, were there any questions for Tim? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks for your submission, Tim. I really appreciate it, and I agree that we probably need to do more to support bicycle and cyclists in the city. I was just wondering if you had an amount in mind for what you would see as enough to be invested per year in the budget for cycling infrastructure?
Not being an accountant working at the council, I don't really know the costs of things, but the reason I ask for it is just so that there's a regular, constant development of infrastructure, because there are big promises and then nothing happened. So there's just apart from what's being done by the state government, there's nothing really happening in Moonee Valley, and it's always attached to something else.
Okay.
So yeah, no, sorry, I don't know the figures. Sorry.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions? Councillor Tyson.
Thanks as well, Tim, for your submission. I was wondering, do you think the focus should be on sort of commuter pathways throughout the municipality, or should it be more, do you think, focused on recreation, leisure?
All of the above. And I also think there should be a focus on encouraging children to ride. So better infrastructure around schools, in school areas, that would be a great help as well, because if you're encouraging kids to ride, they will probably continue to ride as they get older. Good habits developed early are always a good thing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now invite Ante Stipic from Strathmore FC to come up to the stand. Hi, Ante.
Good evening. Thank you for giving the opportunity to present here. I'd prepared a slideshow. We've had a whole bunch of pictures, but obviously I think it's a bit too late to present that. But I'll email you guys at the conclusion of this meeting, and you'll see what I'm on about. So for consideration for the budget, there are two aspects, two things. One is the resurface of Strathnaver Reserve, and the second thing is the addressing the car park or the traffic flow in and out of Strathnaver Reserve. So the first issue, the surface, the request to resurface Strathnaver, is something that needs to be done. As my sport requires a flat, even surface. The ground has never been resurfaced. It's had remedial work such as irrigation and drainage, but ultimately the surface is not adequate. And what we experience week in, week out is just a muddy pitch, and it affects the community at large, and especially the residents. The residents are fully supportive, endorsing, and always questioning what's council doing about the surface. So it just doesn't affect my club of 300 players. We've been there for 20 years. I've been dealing and liaising with council for 15 of those years, and it's always been the number one priority. And we're hoping that council can consider and put some priority. It was prioritised last year, but moving now forwards, I think there's opportunities there to look at capital works budgets in the next 12 months, or look at government funding to address the resurfacing. And the second issue, would have been good if I could visualise the parking issue that we got, but I think less than 12 months ago I informed you guys of the issue of an ambulance unable to locate the ground from Mascoma Street, struggled to access the drive path, and then when they had to transport the patient back to the hospital, they could not turn the ambulance around. Such is the issue of the traffic congestion. Ultimately, the car park, when it was redesigned a few years ago, I questioned council saying there's no way you can turn the vehicle around, and that is still the issue where people are just double, triple parking. And you'll see those in the photos, and I invite you to experience a match day or a training for yourself, and you understand the training, what we experience from a traffic issue. So there was previously a stage 2 development that was cancelled a couple of years ago by prior councillors for whatever reason. So, and that's just added extra issues to the traffic congestion that we experience. So I know my proposal, I said, why don't we install a roundabout at the end of the car park? That's just an idea, but I think if you guys could look at from a design aspect, just to see what can be done to improve the traffic, because at the moment it's just it's not feasible. The ground is getting more use year on year. We're growing as a club, as a sport, and the car park issue just needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Ante, I note that you went over time, but you
Yes,
actually did your 2 submissions in one.
I should have 6 minutes, but it's all right.
No,
Yeah,
that's
so I think I've got my message across.
That's fine. Thank you. Now, there is a note here to say that the location for the roundabout probably wouldn't work, but you're having conversations in terms of what could work with the officers. Is that correct?
No, I've not received any feedback yet. So
Right. Okay. Well, we can.
So we've had some minor discussions, but nothing's progressed. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just threw that, like I said, I threw that up there as an idea, but I think
we love ideas.
Yeah, I think, and maybe, like I said, needs to just have either independent experts or council, other officers within, to come in and really see what can be done, because at the moment it's just not feasible.
Thank you, Ante. So, councillors, were there any questions on either? There were 2 submissions there. Were there any questions on either of them? No. Councillor Isa.
Hi, Ante. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
The access, the emergency access to the grounds, it's a really concerning issue, and I'm just wondering, when the car park was designed, was there and maybe this is a question more for officers, but was there design work around that emergency access that perhaps hasn't been implemented, or was it, what was the plan when the car park was designed?
I think in a previous communication with yourself, you highlighted there was a striped out area right at the end, because when you get to the end of the car park, it's pretty much a dead end, and they allocated a striped area for allow a car to turn around to do effectively a 3-point U-turn. That is a car park. That becomes two spots can fit in that area, and if, like I said, you'll see my email later this evening. You'll see the congestion, what happens at the end of the car park, where it just becomes double, triple parked, car upon car. So I flagged that from the outset, from the very design. This is probably talking about 3-4 years ago, and I said it wasn't going to work, and obviously I'm here tonight saying, hey, we need to look at other options, because it's just getting worse and worse every year.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming along. It's a really important issue for us to address. Thank you, Ante.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any final questions? No? Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker tonight is Catherine Falconer. Catherine.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors and members of the audience. I am Dr. Catherine Falconer, a local GP, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening and have my submission heard. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country in which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. On the 18th of May this year, 5 Australian and New Zealand medical colleges, aligned with the call from the World Health Organization to Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development countries, and called on state and territory government, along with energy companies, to save lives from air pollution and the effects of climate change, with a plan to replace coal and renewables this decade. The President-elect of the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, Adjunct Professor Karen Price, told Fairfax Media, "This is not political, but in keeping with the responsibility of doctors to advocate for good health policy. That responsibility is why I'm here tonight." I quote from the Combined Medical College's letter: "Air pollution from burning fossil fuels causes heart attacks, strokes, lung cancer, and other lung disease, and can particularly harm pregnant people, children, and people with pre-existing conditions. It is now recognised as one of the world's leading causes of morbidity and mortality, and in Australia has been estimated to cause more than 1,400 premature deaths and in excess of 24,000 years of life lost per year. I am grateful that the Moonee Valley City Council has established visions and plans in Moonee Valley 2040, and for the Council's commission of the Independent Point Advisory to provide an evidence-based community emissions reduction analysis. However, I am concerned at the disparity between the proposed community carbon emissions reduction reserve funding in the upcoming budget and that required to meet the MV 2040 targets. In their submission, Moonee Valley Sustainability, in collaboration with community, outlined a proposed breakdown of budget allocation based on the Point Advisory report. I support this proposal and note that a significant increase in expenditure in the areas outlined is required to meet targets. The Council have a large responsibility in budgeting to meet diverse needs and wants in our city. I do not envy you that. However, when it comes to reduction in emissions, this is a definite need for the health, well-being and future of our community. We can learn from recent history in the federal election. Community engagement matters, integrity matters, people matter, and effective action on climate matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, and apologies for not using that title when I introduced you. Thank you.
That's okay.
Councillors, do we have any questions? Councillor Nation.
Thanks for the presentation. Just obviously, Council at the moment set aside the money in that fund, but is there anything else in the budget that you think is also assisting Council to reduce its emissions, or have you looked into the budget to see if there's other areas that we're doing either with our waste or recycling that could be, I guess, included rather than just saying the fund equals X amount?
Just to clarify your question, are you asking if I can see where to take the money from other areas?
No, sorry, I probably
That's
didn't
okay.
explain it. Do you think that Council aren't in other areas of the budget also assisting with the carbon emissions reduction?
I think probably, Councillor Nation, if you think that we are, if you wanted to speak about that, we probably wouldn't be asking our submitters about other items.
Oh, I'm just wondering if they read the whole... That's all right. No, that's fine. Withdraw the question.
Thanks, Councillor Nation. Were there any other questions? No? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Councillor Reiser's hand up. Sorry, Councillor Reiser.
I'm sorry, Councillor Nation, I do have some difficulty hearing councillors. I think I caught your question, but perhaps if just councillors could just speak it really clearly into the microphone, I'd be really grateful. But Dr. Faulkner, I was just wondering if there were particular investments that you would like, and please feel free to if you're not sure, don't worry, but if there are just particular investments you'd like to see council make.
Oh, I was guided by the point advisory report that council had commissioned, and the big opportunities in that include gas into new development, and just off the top of my head, there's a couple more there. One is active transport, putting funding into more access for active transport, which would align with the previous or the first speaker's request for more access with bicycles. They're two of the four big items. They're all listed quite clearly in the point advisory report.
Thank you, which we all have a copy of, and anyone who's watching online, it is, I don't know the date of the agenda, but it is definitely on our website. Did anybody else have any questions? Thank you very much. Our next speaker tonight is Brian Duggan, if Brian's here.
Good evening again, councillors. As most of you know, I'm pretty passionate about this. We have been shortchanged on the Craigieburn line and Moonee Valley in particular in regards to public transport infrastructure with this government. There's been $15 billion spent on upgrading the Pakenham line for 23 of 23 level crossings removed. There's been $3 billion spent on the Frankston line for 23 of 29 level crossings removed. And we've had $400 million spent on 2 of 7 of the level crossings removed on the Craigieburn line. Now, late last year, Dan Andrews said that these level crossings will soon all be gone. Sorry, I'll get his grammar right. These level crossings will all be gone soon. And on the 27th of May 2020, Danny Pearson said that the plans for removing the level crossings at Puckle Street were nearly complete. The Craigieburn line also has Victoria's riskiest level crossing at Macaulay Street in Kensington. Moonee Valley City Council is also making a decision on the level crossings by the end of 2021, so that's a bit late, as part of the Moonee Valley 2040 strategy. To my knowledge, that hasn't been delivered yet. We know that Skyrail won't work as an option, as there's already a 5 metre rise over the 500 metres between the Maribyrnong Road to Puckle Street, and road under rail isn't an option as one, Puckle and Park Streets are too narrow, and two, a chasm like the one created at Buckley Street up into Puckle Street and Holmes Road and Park Streets I don't think would be acceptable to this community. The only two options, as I've outlined before to the council, is rail under road or to close off the streets completely to traffic. My hope, or maybe fear, is that as we approach the November 2022 state election, there will be an announcement that the incumbent government will remove all remaining level crossings. Amidst the euphoria of such an announcement, that Puckle Street will simply be closed off to traffic. Those of you who were councillors back in 2017 will remember the division that the announcement of Buckley Street will be road under rail created, and to my knowledge, it's the only level crossing that opened to protests. None of us want that again. What I'm asking the Moonee Valley City Council to do is to undertake a survey, so it's a budget meeting, so budget for a survey, as they did in 2019 in regards to what people thought about the Buckley Street underpass. And that survey would be which of the options they would prefer. If it is the former, is the preferred option, then we would budget for lobbying the government and any opposition parties to make this policy ahead of the November election. In a nutshell, I'm asking you to get out front on this issue. Can I also add that we know from my Freedom of Information request to the Level Crossing Authority that the metrics that they claimed they would be using to decide which level crossings would be prioritised in 2018, this is online, weren't followed. Puckle Street is now the 10th riskiest crossing in Victoria, according to Alcam. Park Street is number 37. And third, having no level crossing supports the 20-minute neighbourhood strategy of Moonee Valley City Council. And also a reminder to councillors that 6 of you voiced your support prior to the last election for the removal of level crossings. I know you didn't commit to a type, you simply supported the concept, and I appreciate that. Further, the future of these level crossings need to be addressed before the state election. Thank you.
Microphone on, sorry.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Brian. Now, were there any questions? No? Thank you very much for presenting tonight.
Thank you.
Our next speakers tonight are Antonio Baresi and Pasquale Petrolini from the Essendon Italian Pensioners Group.
Good evening, Cons. My name is Pasquale Petrolini, President of the Circolo Pensionati Italiano di Essendon. Our club commenced in March 1976 and celebrated 46 years in March this year. Our club consists of over 300 members and was the first pension club in Moonee Valley, in the state of Victoria. We consist of 10 of the committee members. We are voluntary work, which give up our time for better for our club. The club provides a friendly welcome environment for our members to come along and enjoy main activity and social events. Without this club, many of these other citizens or community will find themselves social isolated. Without our community outlet, give we are forced to pay a high rental right to hire the current facility in ICA Club. We are at risk of not being able to continue to provide this service. So, to the 2021 financial year, Moonee Valley Cons assist with $5,000 that contribute to the higher cost of the ICA Club. We urge the Council to reconsider such assistance to ensure that the club has a long and viable future. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to put our case forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in tonight and presenting. Councillors, did we have any questions? Councillor Sypack.
Yes, thank you, Pasquale. The $5,000 that you're requesting, is that goes towards the club, or is that just to cover the cost of hiring the hall for the all year round? Is that correct?
Yeah, Tony. I'm sorry, Tony, because I can't listen properly. No.
Sure.
You can answer my question.
We pay. Just come to the microphone.
All right, come here.
We pay every year close to $10,000 rent to the ICA Club. You know, and in the previous years, the council at first, and then through budget, they used to help us out for $5,000 towards the rent. Now, the last couple of years, we're not getting this money, and that makes us very, very hard to pay all this money, you know. So we asked the council if they could reconsider to help us, because the council can't provide us with a venue to accommodate all these people.
More than 200 people.
Yeah. Like, for instance, on Sunday, we got a function of 220 people, and we had to cancel a lot of them because that's not big enough for more than 220, 230 people. Unfortunately, you know, their rent is a bit too much, and we like to continue for years to come, but like this, you know, we can't, you know. it's going to be a time where it's going to be very difficult to continue without the council help, you know. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Tyson.
Antonio, you said there was the $10,000 for the year. How often does that get you access?
We have 9 functions every year, plus 1 meeting when we collect new committee. You know, if people wants to overthrow us, they can, you know. So we have that. So it's virtually 10. But every function, we pay ICA very close to $1,000. So 9 dances, that's already $9,000. You know, it's a bit hard for us, you know.
And how long a period of time has it been that rate, $1,000?
That rate has been for, since I've been there, the last 3 or 4 years.
No, this $5,000, that's...
No. How long we've been paying this money to ICA?
About
At that rate?
6 years.
6 years, okay, thank you.
But before, we stay in bowling club, in Money Ponds there. And the council pay to bowling club. They start to pay for 90, 96, 97. Last year, they stopped to pay for us. Otherwise, they pay all the time 5,000.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions? Thank you very much for coming in and presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for my English, not the best.
No, everyone is welcome. Thank you very much. Now, our next speaker tonight is Reece Collins from the Essendon Tennis Club.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks very much for the opportunity to present. Just to introduce myself, my name's Reece Collins. I'm the president of the Essendon Tennis Club. I'm really passionate about the project that we've got that I wanted to talk to today. Just firstly wanted to thank Councillor Cam Nation that we've sort of had some engagement with so far for coming along and sort of helping us get to this point. So yeah, thanks very much. I wanted to sort of cover sort of 3 things really in today's presentation. Really an introduction to who we are as a club, the problem that we face, and essentially what the ask is of council, what we want to try and work with council to help us achieve. And obviously any questions at the end, more than happy to do that as well. So about the club, so in terms of I guess our registered participants at the club, we have about 900 of the members of the local community that constitutes, I guess, club members, as well as, I guess, social players that aren't members of the club but want to, I guess, just regular members of the community that want to come and play tennis on a I guess, a casual basis, really. In terms of our membership, we range from, I guess, juniors, so kids as young as 4, up to adults, and I think we've got some adults and senior members that are, or players at the club that are probably into their 80s, into their 90s. I think the benefit of our club, and I guess what we have, is that it's not one particular age group or one gender. We basically cater for everyone, and I think that's a real positive of the club. A lot of our members are, you know, over 60, over 70, and I think, you know, those sort of opportunities for them to have a social outing and an engagement in the community is really important. We have, I guess, 50 competition teams across various age groups and across various competitions. Probably the largest number of clubs in any of the, the largest number of teams in any of the competitions for clubs across Moonee Valley. We have 10 tennis courts. They range from Ontacar courts, which is like that clay type surface, as well as sort of synthetic clay courts as well. Obviously our club has a clubhouse, essentially change rooms, disabled toilets, all that sort of stuff. We're located in Clifton Park in Aberfeldy, and for those that don't know Clifton Park, that's essentially where Aberfeldy play their football. That's usually the thing that gets people to understand where we are. So So the problem that we face at the moment, and I guess the real challenge that we have at the club, is we have 4 of our tennis courts that are presenting a real significant OH&S issue. The issues that we have are really around the surface of the courts as well as the lighting. Now, I've submitted some, I guess, some presentations, which I'm not sure if council has had the ability to look at yet, but more than welcome to we'll send them through again later if required. But the playing surface is a real issue. The surface that we have on some of these synthetic clay courts is actually very uneven, and I guess the issue that we have, particularly for our very young members and our older, I shouldn't say older, but our retired members, is that they're not as stable on their footing, obviously, and the instability in the courts and the actual, I guess, unevenness of the surface causes a lot of trip hazards. Particularly in our retired men's group, there's been a couple of falls recently where arms or body parts have been broken, which has been really unfortunate. So that's a real challenge that we face and something that we need to fix as soon as possible. Our lighting is also obviously an issue as well. So we have a lot of the high standing lights that are used for the courts. The footings of those have got some challenges as well in terms of those being a bit unstable, and poles are starting to lean over. So obviously what we want to do is put a project together which actually fixes all those OH&S issues, so we provide a safe playing facility essentially for all of our members, and for the members of the community to play socially as well. I guess the risk if we do nothing really is that the courts become a lot worse, right? And at the end we may need to close the courts because they're too much of a safety concern, right? And essentially what that means is there's less opportunity for members of the local community to play tennis. So I guess what the ask is of Moonee Valley and the reason for coming tonight is that we really want to partner Moonee Valley in trying to fund this project, which really is a court upgrade and lighting upgrade. There's 2 options that we've been working with, and we've engaged 2MH Consulting, which is I guess a preferred partner of Tennis Victoria, and they've put together a master plan for us about how we could upgrade the facility. So one of those options is that option for that master plan, and that's probably more of a long-term solution that is broken down into 3 different stages. It is an expensive implementation of that, and I guess that in terms of the first phase, which is the real critical OH&S issue for us, would cost about $1.2 million, and that essentially involves upgrading the courts to a dimensions that essentially fit if you were building brand new courts, so to be compliant with a new build essentially. And then there's a phase 2 and a phase 3 which upgrade all of our other courts to that. That's a real, I guess, a long-term approach that we could implement with council if there was the appetite to do so, and we'll certainly be really keen to do that. The other option that we have pursued is really just a way just to fix our immediate OH&S concerns, which is to upgrade the 4 of the courts that have our issues, or our primary issues, and we have a quote to replace that, and that was essentially $400,000 to do that. Now, the difference between the 2 is that is just to maintain the courts inside their existing footprint. So it's to keep the dimensions the same, but it's to basically improve the playing surface and to replace the lights. So I guess that's the main things that I really wanted to cover, and the ask was really, that we're really keen to partner, and it's sort of something that I've been passionate about for a long time because we sort of see it as a real benefit and a way to help improve the club and also try and bring more people involved. And I guess the better facilities that we've got, the more chance we've got of improving tennis and getting more people involved in tennis around the community. So thanks very much for the opportunity. Really appreciate the opportunity to present. I'm more than happy for if anybody wants to come out and sort of visit the facility and understand more about the project and the club and sort of who plays there. More than welcome to come out and arrange a time and do that. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Reece. Did we have any questions? Councillor Tyson?
Thanks for the presentation, Reece. How old are the courts currently?
How old?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the courts that we've got we're looking to replace, we replaced them as a club probably 15 years ago. They were that old Ontacar, that clay top surface, and what we did is we replaced them with a synthetic clay surface, but they weren't concreted underneath. And the issue is with the instability of the soil and that around Moonee Valley, that they become unstable. So we've tried to fix them a few times, and we've got to the point where I guess the ongoing sort of maintenance isn't really suitable anymore. They've got to the point where there's too many indentations and too many things like that, and the footings and the lights are sort of starting to really cause the light poles to lean over. So in terms of what we've done on those courts recently, about 15 years, but I mean, the courts themselves have basically been there since about 1970. But yeah, they just require ongoing maintenance, and we want to try and do something and do it properly now so they're sustainable for the longer term.
And sort of that leads into my second question. With the two options that your consultants have identified, do you know what the usable life sort of is on those two options?
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially the two options that we've got in terms of the four courts with the OH&S used is likely the same. And the actual surface, like the matting sort of surface that we would have, would be something that you'd replace every sort of 10 to 15 years, and we as a club would look to obviously fund that on an ongoing basis, right? The real sort of cost is around the concreting. In terms of all the other courts, I mean, again, they require ongoing maintenance, but I mean, court life is typically 10 to 15 years, potentially 20 years. It all depends on how much you play on them and that sort of thing, right? So, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillor Bedio?
Sorry, thank you for the submission. Sorry, I might have missed what you said to Councillor Tyson just then, but so for 400,000, would it be removing the existing courts and then pouring concrete underneath before?
Yeah, so what the 400,000 would encompass is essentially to rip up the existing four courts with the real significant problems. It would be putting a concrete base underneath and then laying like a synthetic surface on top. And obviously it also includes the light poles, addressing those and everything. So it's basically putting that concrete base is essentially what ensures that there's, I guess, a consistency, and yet you don't sort of have that unevenness of the surface underneath.
Sure. And would you be remediating the existing light posts or brand new lighting?
No, we'd need to remove them essentially, because the footings and that are too problematic. Yep. So we'd rip them out and replace them.
No worries. Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Hodgson?
Thanks, Reece, for your submission. You mentioned partnering with council on this, and I just wanted to check: is the 400,000 and the option 1, 2.5 to 3.2 million, are they the full amount of the work, or is that factoring?
Yeah, that's the full amount of the work. So basically the full amount of the project. And I mean, club has money allocated towards the project, but obviously we can't fund it all ourselves. So we're looking to partner with council to fund them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just check, and obviously you don't need to say it publicly if you don't wish to, is that in your budget submission how much the club contribution is?
I'm not sure if it is, but I can certainly provide that information. I'm happy to mention now. So we could put in just sort of between $50,000 and $100,000, I think, comfortably towards that. So
that's good to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cool.
Was there any further questions? No? Thank
Great.
you very much.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay, our next speaker tonight is David Landgren, if I've pronounced that correctly, from Essendon Hockey Club.
Thank you very much, councillors, for the opportunity to come here and give you some good news, and also to speak to the submission that's before you at the moment for the budget year. Firstly, I'd like to report on behalf of the members and the entire community our gratitude for the previous support in previous year's budget. The synthetic surface replacement of the southern ground is now complete as of this week, and we had our first training run on it yesterday. Yes, thank you very much, applause. And so we're very grateful for that. And you'd also be aware that since the project has commenced, we've now changed our lease with council, and council has full availability to rent those facilities out for all daylight hours midweek to the community. And I speak to that because I think it's really important in finishing this particular project. The original project was some $600,000. We came in well under that, and most of that was because we changed the scope. The scope was changed, that the seating and the shelters that were in the original submission actually were taken out of scope. Not by our preference, but I guess by some other design. However, I'm here to talk to you about completing the particular project, and that is the seating and the shelter and the safety netting around the ground to do that. The project to complete would then have us with seating on both the northern and the southern grounds, able to be used by all community in an all-weather situation, 2 all-weather grounds that we then have spectators or schools that could also be in an all-weather environment sitting on the sidelines. The particular project saved, we believe, around 2 to 250. We're not exactly, you would be aware of the numbers, we are not, but we think it saved it around that amount, and we're seeking to finish the project. We think there'd be a maximum of 250. The quotes that we have at the moment, there's two options. One is 180 odd thousand, and the other is 230 odd thousand. The difference being how much concrete is poured along the sidelines for the foundations of the seats. Do we put concrete under every seat, or do we take the opportunity to actually repave the whole concrete area, which is currently about 25-year-old asphalt? So that's where the option difference is. We believe that this would then have an investment that the whole community can enjoy, as well as obviously the 600 members and visitors to the facility, but it would finish the project the way that it was originally designed to do, and then we'd have a first-class facility both north and south, providing one other major benefit. If we can play Premier League games for men and women on both grounds with spectators, we would then share the wear of those two surfaces and increase the life of replacing them. We've now got them staggered in their life, but we want to actually get them to live as long as they possibly can. So we want to take some games off one ground and put it onto the other. So thank you for what you've done, and we'd ask that this submission be considered carefully.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Councillors, any questions? No? Just to be consistent with the previous presenter as well, was there a co-contribution from the club?
We have actually got some good news on that too. We haven't got a co-contribution from club. However, we have been lobbying federal government, and we've already achieved a $10,000 subsidy from federal government. We've received that funds. We've invested that already into the steel of some of the seats, because we've been told prices were going up at the end of this month by 40%, so we've actually invested that now to save. The club is still with a loan of over $200,000 on the ground, so our priority is to extinguish that loan, and that was on the ground that's already been replaced. So we're paying a loan off on something that's no longer there. But we do have the ability and ambition to do that.
Okay. Sorry, just so I've got that right. So you would potentially extend the current loan that you've got?
The current loan is still valid, and yes, it's no longer guaranteed by council. It's no longer has to be. So the club is meeting those payments, and will continue to meet those commitments.
Thank you. Councillor Tyson.
So just to clarify, so that was that loan part of the club's co-contribution with the project we did last year, is that correct?
No, it actually goes back further than that,
Okay.
Councillor Tyson. It's a $600,000 loan that was taken out to do the original ground and the lights in excess of 10 years ago.
Okay, thanks.
So the loans lasted longer than the ground.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our next presenter for tonight is Catherine Glass from the Judagala Tennis Club. Councillor Sharp is just going to step out for the moment. Thank you, Catherine.
So thank you, Mayor Byrne and councillors for this opportunity. I'll try and make this as quick and painless for you as possible, because I know you're in for a long night. So firstly, introduce my team. I know the people online can't see them, but we've got our President, Aaron Sharp, our Secretary, Tim Benton, and I'm Treasurer for Judagala Tennis Club. So I won't be surprised if you haven't heard of our little club. Judagala has been in existence, though, since 1946. We reside in Essendon North, just off Buller Road Service Road. Our club has sustained always around 150 members, made up of families and individuals from the surrounding areas. However, we are an inclusive and diverse club and open to the public. Our members cover several generations of tennis lovers, and our tennis competition is held most nights at the club, along with midweek, junior competition and social tennis. Junior development is a high priority at the club, and despite being relatively small mid-size, we only have 3 courts, we constantly field strong and competitive teams in local competitions. Our coach, Anthony Guccione, also has a strong relationship with the Essendon North Primary School, and Anthony conducts school clinics while the school utilises our club facilities for recreation activities. The Dudagalla courts are well utilised by members of the public wanting to play tennis. The club has the latest book a court system, which allows members to see the court's availability online, book a court and come down and play just by putting in a PIN code. So just a bit of a history on our club. Over 18 years ago, we replaced the old Ontakar courts with synthetic porous courts. These courts have served the club well, but their original lifespan was 10 years and they've well surpassed that. So we're now looking to redevelop our courts. Are they in need of development? We already have used vital funds to maintain the court surface, which unfortunately due to use and weather is constantly degrading. There's also an increasing public risk as the court pile is compacted in some areas, it's becoming slippery. So even though we've been vigilant in our planning and meeting our club goals, we only have limited revenue streams. So now we're reaching out to council to seek financial support to redevelop our courts, as we need assistance in achieving this goal. The club's yearly profit is around $3,000 a year, and we have continued to gain sponsorship, undertake fundraising activities such as inter-club competitions, trivia nights and things like Bunnings barbecues. However, without council support to upgrade our facilities, it's considerably further away, and in doing so depletes club savings on maintenance. We've obtained a quote for the replacement of courts from Tennis Victoria for a contract that works with them for $106,000, which you'll have attached along with your submission, hopefully. So our request to council is to support us with a dollar for dollar contribution to redevelop the courts. So the total contribution we're looking for is about $53,000. Dudagalla wants to continue to keep the community connected, safe and healthy through active participation and the love of the game. Since the current courts were installed over 18 years ago, Moonee Valley Council was not to fund any capital works at the club. So we kindly ask you to look at this submission to enable our vibrant club to continue and to safeguard our club's future. If you accept our proposal, we'll hopefully won't hear from us for another 18 to 25 years or more. So many thanks for your time and patience.
And you know that this is going to be recorded on YouTube for the next 18 years,
Go
so
for
you're
it.
happy for it to be replayed back?
The courts are state of the line, we're actually getting, so yes, definitely.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Sypek.
Yeah, just in regards to your lighting, are they sufficient enough?
They're perfect, yeah, we only got them done, any word from I don't know, about 2 years ago.
Terrific. And the club rooms, they're okay as well?
We have upgraded them over the time. So we've actually got new outside, we've got a brand new toilets area, plus also the kitchen was donated from Bunnings, Benton's Plumbing, sorry.
Fantastic.
Not Bunnings.
Councillor Bedio.
Thank you for your submission. Just wondering, I'm sorry if I missed it in your submission, but how many courts do you have at the club?
Only 3.
3, no worries. So
150 members, 3 courts.
Yep, okay. So for the 106,000, it'll replace all the courts?
Replace 1 court.
One court.
Sorry, I'm sorry, 3 courts.
3 courts, replace all 3 courts?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Apologies.
Thank you. I think that's all. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks for coming along tonight. We'll just wait for Councillor Sharp to come back in. I believe the next speaker is Dr. Peter Cook. No, not Dr. Peter Cook. We've got Andrew Brockfield. Andrew, if we can just wait one moment, we've just got a councillor coming back in.
Certainly.
Shouldn't be too long. For those joining us online, it's one of our first nights with a fairly full gallery with lots of people coming in and out, which is very exciting for us as a council to have people engaged and back in. So thank you for everyone for coming along. Shouldn't be too long. And we just have a few more after this one as well. We shouldn't be too long. So I'm happy, sorry, I'll just fill in a little bit of time. For those who are just joining us now, we've had Tim Golby speak from the Moonee Valley Bicycle User Group, Ante Stipic from Strathmore FC, Dr. Catherine Falconer in regards to climate change, Brian Duggan in regards to level crossing removal, Antonio Pasquale from the Essendon Italian Pensioners Group, Reece Collins from Essendon Tennis Club, David Landgren from the Essendon Hockey Club, Catherine Glass from Dudagala Tennis Club. And now we're up to Andrew Brookfield, and we've got Councillor Sharp back in the chamber. Councillor Sypek did ask to leave for a moment, but he was okay for you to continue whilst he was gone. So I'm sure he'll be back soon. Andrew, over to you.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to our submission tonight. Basically, there's two aspects to our submission tonight, but before that, just a little bit. Maribyrnong Park Football Club, 42 years history, playing down at the Boulevard, beside the river. One of the largest football clubs in the EDFL. We field 25 teams, 8 senior teams, 17 junior teams. We lead the EDFL in female participation, particularly over the last 4 years, which we're particularly proud of. Ageing facilities down there, the pavilion has been a long-standing discussion for us, along with a number of the other football clubs in the municipality. So tonight what we're submitting for is two discrete projects, as I said. The first is a submission relating to storage. Last month, council officers attended our request. We have had 2 disabled toilets that have not been functioning as disabled toilets for a significant period of time, certainly the 6 years I've been involved in the footy club. They're not fit for purpose, they've been damaged. They've been serving as storage rooms, locked storage rooms. The council officers have agreed to remediate those disabled toilets so that they come up to spec. As a consequence of that, we will lose the storage facilities used for things like tables, chairs, the barbecues, things of that nature. So the first submission relates to a suggestion around using a container. We've got details in the submission and suggestions of location, that sort of thing. A number of the sporting clubs have used similar sort of designs. Aberfeldy West, for example, have a very similar operation to what we've proposed. The second relates to a drainage pit at the front of the pavilion area between the 2 ovals, particularly in light of the recent weather over the last couple of weeks. That area gets extremely muddy, and particularly on Friday night with juniors. Parents are quite enamoured with us when 10-year-old boys and girls run through the mud and go home extremely muddy. The clay underneath that is extremely hard packed, so the water basically sits on that. We had a council officer come, one of the senior groundskeepers made a recommendation that the best option was to put a drainage pit into that area. So 2 discrete submissions. Our priority would be for the storage. If we can have only one out of the 2 submissions, the storage is probably a more pressing issue for us, particularly given the council's commitment to remediate the 2 disabled toilets, as I said. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillors? And for councillors who are looking on here, it was under Steve. If you spent the whole time looking for Andrew, like I did, under Steve.
Yeah, sorry.
No, all good. Councillor Bedio.
Thank you for your submission. I was just wondering if you've received a timeline from officers in relation to the remediation of the toilets?
No, we're waiting on that. So it was the 18th of May is when they came down. We got a response back saying that they recognised the work was needed to be done, but we haven't been told as to when that will take place.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Adams?
Thanks, Andrew. Have you got an estimated cost of what you're looking at?
I think, Steve, on the drainage pit, no, but I think it was circa $20,000 to $30,000 for the storage facility, based on other designs we've seen and a bit of research that our Secretary Steve Scicluna had done.
I've got a note here, Councillor Adams, that the installation of a temporary storage facility will cost about $2,400 per annum as a temporary one, if it was to be hired and managed through. Yeah. I'm just reading from some notes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was an acquisition cost I quoted. So yeah.
The drainage pit?
I have no idea. Sorry, that was only a couple of weeks ago, and it was a suggestion made by the senior grounds person. Yep.
Any other questions, councillors?
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Okay. And our next speaker tonight is Patrick Sheehan. If Patrick is here.
Yes. Mayor, can I start? Is Patrick speaking about both submissions in the papers?
Apologies, Patrick. What submissions are you speaking about?
I've got two, but I'll try and keep them both under 3 minutes. There was one.
That's okay. We've just got someone who's going to step out. Thank you.
Okay, well, firstly, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity for making a submission this evening. Secondly, I'm offering my support as a local business owner, but also a resident, for the additional funds to be set aside for council to support climate action. I believe that $20 per person, I believe that sums up to about $2.5 million, is a reasonable amount if it is invested properly and can be used to leverage to encourage larger investments by businesses and individuals. To guide the investment on the climate budget, I believe we should be respecting the advice received from Port Advisory on the 4th of February 2022. Consistent with this advice, the money could be spent on activities such as encouraging electric vehicles by providing additional infrastructure and policies that favour electric vehicles. This infrastructure could include public charging stations at shopping centre precincts and premium parking bays for electric vehicles. The cost would not have to be entirely borne by council, and these projects could be involved, or these could involve public and private partnerships. Partnering with households and businesses to leverage efficient uptake of new or replacement energy efficient equipment. For example, this could include a non-means tested grant of the lower of 50% or $1,000 of the out-of-pocket costs of replacing old or inefficient appliances, and a non-means tested grant of the lower of 50% or $2,000 to assist in the grant of the installation of solar for businesses and individuals. While there are many federal and state grants currently available, many people in our area aren't doing that because they may be means tested and they may not satisfy those tests. For example, the state government has some schemes for installing energy efficient appliances, but I think the income cap is lower than what many of our residents earn. And I believe if we're truly encouraging climate action, we shouldn't be means testing it. Third, improving energy efficient standards for new homes, including subsidising solar or making it mandatory in all new builds in the area, and organising a bulk voluntary purchasing scheme for renewable electricity and or carbon offsets, and possibly even a community battery. I see one has recently been installed in Fitzroy, which I think is a fantastic project. That is my first submission. My second one is somewhat linked to that, but I'll just continue on, and I've just gone over 3 minutes, but I should get this one done in a minute or so. I request that the solar panel installation for the Ascot Vale Leisure Centre is reconsidered. I'm making this request as I do not believe the costs and benefits were thoroughly considered on the evening of the draft budget. I've since received the below correspondence from Council, which states that if solar was installed, that it would be saving approximately $41,000 per year in electricity costs. Furthermore, the actual cost of the installation would be far less than the $325,000 that was initially envisaged. These numbers result in a payback period of approximately 5 to 8 years. Therefore, it would be in the long-term financial interests of Council to invest in this project sooner than later. And that presumably that $41,000 would have been based on today's electricity costs, which, as we all know, are going to increase substantially over the next couple of years. Furthermore, that payback period of being 5 to 8 years should be seen in the light of the typical life of solar panels, which at the moment can come with a 25-year guarantee. So there would be a significant payback period for Council, not only from a financial perspective, but furthermore from a climate action perspective. Are there any questions or comments? I'll do my best as an accountant to answer them, but I'm not a scientist.
Thank you. Councillor Isa.
Hi, Patrick. Sorry, unfortunately, the microphone just seemed to be cutting in and out there a little bit, and I just missed a little bit of what you said. But I just wanted to ask about the second submission, just to clarify what your seeking, am I right in thinking that you're querying the cost of council's estimate on that? Or are you, what aspect of it were you querying? Because it's currently in the draft budget at a particular amount. If you could just clarify that, Patrick, sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. I listened to the budget previously and I thought it had been taken out. My apologies. Okay, well then I'll change my submission that it is continued to be considered. Excuse me, I thought it had been taken out. But I'd like it to be considered in light of the annual savings of at least $41,000 when council does consider the installation of, or considered whether the installation of the solar panels at the leisure centre is something that council wants to spend money on.
Thanks, Patrick. I think there were two different Ascot Vale Leisure Centre budget items. So there was the solar panel one and then there was more of a maintenance one. So the maintenance one was removed on before the draft budget.
Oh, excuse me. Okay.
So the solar panels is still in there, but thank you for your submission to say you want the solar panels.
Thank you very much.
And the detailed response. Councillor Bedio.
Hi Patrick, thanks for your submission. I just had a question in relation to the $20 per person.
Yes.
Now, as part of your submission, was that envisaged that would come out of the total quantum collected from rates, or would that be an additional charge on top of the rates?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the way that it would be financed by council. I would leave that to each of you to see the most appropriate method for that to be financed.
Okay. I guess because obviously it's something that we obviously as part of the submission we consider how we would allocate money and where the money comes from. I'm kind of keen to get community thoughts and I guess your ideas as to whether there would be appetite for having that as an add-on charge to rates per person, or what's your views on that?
Well, my views would naturally be quite biased because I'd be happy to put $20 towards it because I'm of the view, you know, I currently invest far more than $20 to reduce my own emissions. So I don't think I could speak to that because I would only speak of my own views, which would be, yes, I'm happy to pay the extra $20, but maybe a community survey would be more appropriate.
Yep, that's fine. No, thank you. Thanks for your feedback.
Great.
Thank you very much. Any final questions? No? Thank you very much. Now, we do have one more person who wishes to present tonight. However, they have requested to not be recorded, which is obviously completely fine. So what I will do is we'll say good night to the people who are streaming online. Thank you very much for joining us. As we said, we will be having one more person who will be presenting to us, and we will consider all of the submissions regardless of whether people have presented tonight or have just put them in into our draft submission. So thank you very much for joining us online, and we'll say goodbye to our online viewers.